Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizons, watching the stars through the main window. His ship carried 15,000 humans to their new home beyond the edge of known space. They had traveled for 3 years to reach this distant corner of the galaxy, far from Earth and its crowded cities. Jake was a tall man with graying hair and tired eyes. He had fought in the Mars Rebellion 20 years ago, but that seemed like a lifetime ago. Now he just wanted to find a peaceful place where humans could build something new. The colony ship was huge, almost like a small city floating through space. Families lived in the lower decks while the crew worked above. The ship's computer started beeping. Lisa Brooks, the communications officer, looked up from her station. She was young, maybe 30, with short brown hair and sharp eyes that missed. "Nothing, Captain, we have incoming signals." Multiple ships approaching from the port side. Jake walked over to her station. "How many ships?" 52 vessels, sir. "They're big ones, too. Much bigger than anything we've seen before." Jake felt his stomach tighten. They were still months away from their destination planet. Meeting other ships out here was not good news. "Any response to our greeting signals?" "Nothing yet, sir." "But they're moving to surround us." Dr. Nathan Cross hurried onto the bridge. He was the colony's chief scientist, a thin man who always looked worried about something. "Captain, I've been monitoring their transmissions. The language is completely unknown, but the tone sounds like military commands." Jake nodded. "Red alert, all hands to stations." "Lisa, try to reach them again. Use the basic mathematical sequences we prepared for first contact." The alien ships moved with perfect coordination, forming a complete circle around the human vessel. Each ship was sleek and dark, with strange symbols glowing along their hulls. They looked like weapons designed to kill, not tools built for exploration. A new voice came over the communication system. It spoke in broken English with a strange accent. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately. Lower your shields and prepare for boarding. Resistance will result in destruction." Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was scared, but they were ready to fight. These people had left Earth to be free, not to become slaves to some alien empire. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the colony ship New Horizons. We are peaceful explorers seeking a new home. We mean no harm to anyone." The alien voice came back, colder this time. "You are now property of the Zephyrian Empire. Your species will serve or die. This is your only warning." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. His people had come too far to give up now. "Lisa, open a channel to the entire fleet." "Channel open." "Sir," Jake took a deep breath, "this is your captain speaking. We face a choice today. We can surrender and become slaves, or we can fight for our freedom. I know what I choose. All hands prepare for battle." The alien ships began moving closer, their weapons charged with a blue glow that lit up the darkness of space. Admiral Vexthara commanded the Zephyrian fleet from her flagship. She was a tall creature with purple skin and 4 arms. Her species had conquered dozens of worlds, and she expected this to be easy. "Fire warning shots," she commanded. "Show them our power." Blue energy beams shot past the human ship, lighting up the bridge with their glow. The aliens expected the humans to panic and surrender. Instead, Jake's ship began to move. "Bobby, take us to full speed," Jake ordered. Bobby Chun was his best pilot, a young man who could make the huge ship dance like a fighter. "Lisa, signal the other colony ships. Tell them to scatter and run." The New Horizons suddenly accelerated, moving faster than the aliens thought possible for such a large vessel. The ship twisted and turned, avoiding the alien weapons with moves that seemed impossible. The Zephyrians had never seen anything like it. "What are they doing?" Admiral Vexthara demanded. "No cargo ship can move like the..." Her weapons officer, a creature with too many eyes, looked confused. "Admiral, their ship is not built for war, but they fight like soldiers. They use their engines and cargo holds as weapons." Jake had turned his colony ship into a weapon. The huge cargo doors opened, releasing clouds of metal debris that confused the alien sensors. The ship's industrial equipment shot streams of superheated gas that damaged enemy hulls. Even the farming equipment became dangerous in the right hands. "Sir, 3 more human ships are coming," Lisa reported. "It's Commander Brooks with the escort vessels." Lisa Brooks commanded the Endeavour, a smaller ship that carried the colony's military supplies. She was Jake's daughter, though few people knew it. She had trained with Earth's best pilots and had always dreamed of exploring the stars. Now she found herself in the first battle between humans and aliens. "This is Commander Brooks to all ships." Her voice came over the radio. "Attack pattern Delta. Show these aliens what humans can do." The 3 human escort ships were fast and deadly. They moved between the alien vessels like sharks, striking quickly and disappearing before the enemy could respond. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow the rules of space. Combat. Dr. Cross was working frantically at his station. "Captain, I'm reading their communications. They're calling for more ships." "This is just the advance force," Jake gritted his teeth. "How long until reinforcements arrive?" 30 minutes, maybe less." A battle raged around them. Human ships darted between the alien vessels, using speed and cunning instead of heavy weapons. The Zephyrians were stronger, but they were also slow and predictable. They had conquered other species by overwhelming them with superior firepower. They had never fought an enemy that refused to stand still and be destroyed. Admiral Vexthara watched her fleet falling apart. These humans fought like nothing she had ever seen. They used tactics that made no sense, weapons that shouldn't exist, and showed a determination that terrified her crew. Her people were beginning to panic. "Admiral, we have lost 12 ships," her second-in-command reported. "The humans are targeting our command vessels. Impossible. They are primitives with simple technology. Admiral, perhaps we should withdraw and wait for reinforcements." Vexthara looked at the battle display. The humans were winning. A species that should have surrendered in fear was destroying her fleet. She had never experienced defeat before, and the feeling made her sick. "All ships withdraw to safe distance. We will wait for the main fleet." The surviving Zephyrian ships pulled back, their hulls smoking and their crews demoralized. They had expected an easy victory and instead found themselves beaten by cargo. Ships and farmers. Jake watched the alien fleet retreat. His ship was damaged but still fighting. Around him, his crew cheered and celebrated. They had won their first battle, but he knew it was just the beginning. "Lisa, damage report." "Minor." "Hull damage, sir." "We lost 2 escort ships, but most of our people are safe." Jake nodded. "Nathan, what did you learn from their transmissions?" Dr. Cross looked grim. "Captain, this empire has conquered dozens of species. They don't just want our surrender. They want to enslave or kill every human they find." The bridge fell silent. Jake looked out at the stars, thinking about the families sleeping in the lower decks. These people had trusted him to lead them to safety, and instead he had led them into a war. "Then we fight," he said quietly. "We didn't come this far to become slaves. Signal Earth. Tell them what we found out here. And prepare for the next battle." The Zephyrian Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked the wrong species at the wrong time. Humans had spent their entire history fighting each other, learning every possible way to wage war. Now they would teach the galaxy what that meant. The war for human freedom had begun. The Void sat in complete darkness, thinking about failure. For 3,000 years, the Umbral Syndicate had never lost a target. Kings, rebels, entire species leaders had all fallen to his assassins. But now, for the first time, he faced a problem that bullets and poison could not solve. The creature that called itself the Void had no real form. It was a shadow that could take any shape, speak any language, and kill in ways that left no evidence. It ruled the galaxy's most feared organization from a hidden base between the stars. When the Zephyrian Empire needed someone eliminated quietly, they called the Void. Admiral Vexthara had come to him personally. Her pride still wounded from the defeat at Kepler 442, she sat across from the Void in his dark chamber, her forearms crossed in anger. The humans must die, she said, all of them. But it must look like accidents. The Empire cannot appear weak by losing another battle. The Void's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. You wish me to eliminate an entire species? That will be expensive. Name your price. The Empire will pay anything to be rid of these creatures. Very well. But understand this, Admiral. Once my assassins begin their work, there is no stopping them. The humans will die, but others will learn to fear the Syndicate even more. The Void's first choice was Agent Crix, a changeling who could look like anyone. Crix had killed presidents and emperors by simply walking into their homes wearing friendly faces. He was perfect for infiltrating the human colonies. Crix took a small ship to the human settlement on New Terra. The colony was still new, with only 50,000 people, living in simple buildings under a dome of clear metal. He studied the humans from orbit, learning their faces and voices. These creatures looked weak and soft, nothing like the warriors who had destroyed the Zephyrian fleet. He chose the identity of a traitor named Carl Murphy, who had died in a transport accident. Crix made himself look exactly like the dead man and landed at the colony's spaceport. The humans welcomed him warmly, offering food and shelter. They seemed trusting and innocent, but Mayor Danny Phillips was not as simple as he appeared. Danny had been a detective on Earth before joining the colony mission. He noticed small things that others missed. The new trader's clothes were wrong. For someone who had been traveling in space, his story had tiny holes that made no sense. Most importantly, he asked too many questions about the colony's leaders. Danny said nothing at first. Instead, he quietly talked to other colonists. Within days, a network of watchers surrounded the fake trader. The humans had learned to be suspicious after the first battle. They watched Crix without him knowing, following his every move. Dr. Susan Walker worked in the colony's medical center. She was a quiet woman who treated everyone with kindness. Crix decided she would be his first target. If he could kill the doctor and make it look like an accident, fear would spread through the colony. He waited until she was alone in her office late at night. Crix entered through a window, his form shifting to look like a medical assistant. But Susan was not alone. 3 other humans waited in the shadows, watching. "Hello, Carl," Susan said calmly. "Or should I call you by your real name?" Crix froze. His perfect disguise had failed somehow. "I don't understand. I am Carl Murphy, a traitor." Carl Murphy died 3 weeks ago in a transport crash near Jupiter. We checked. Danny Phillips stepped out of the shadows with 2 other colonists. "We know what you are, alien. The question is, what do you want?" Crix's form rippled and changed. His human appearance melted away, revealing a creature of living shadow with glowing red eyes. "You cannot stop me." "I am death itself." "Maybe," Danny said, "but you're also trapped." The room filled with bright light from hidden lamps. Crix screamed as the light burned his shadow form. The humans had learned about his species during the first battle, studying every alien they could find information about. They knew his weaknesses. "Talk, and we might let you live," Susan said. "Stay silent, and we'll leave you in the light until morning." Crix told them everything. About the Void, about the Syndicate, about the other assassins coming to kill human leaders. The humans listened carefully, recording every word. When he finished, they gave him a choice. "You can die here, or you can carry a message back to your Mesta," Danny said. "Tell the Void that humans are ready for his assassins. Tell him we're waiting." The second assassin was Zixara, a creature that could read minds and control thoughts. She had never met a mind she could not break. Her species, the Psi-Wraiths, were born with powers that made them perfect killers. They could drive victims insane or make them kill themselves. Zixara chose to target Bobby Chun, the pilot who had embarrassed the Zephyrian fleet. She found him working alone in the ship repair bay on New Terra. Bobby was young and focused on his work, the perfect target for mental attack. She reached out with her mind, trying to push into his thoughts. But human minds were different from anything she had experienced. Bobby's consciousness was like a maze filled with memories, dreams, and wild imagination. The deeper she went, the more lost she became. Bobby had grown up reading science fiction. stories, and playing video games. His mind was full of heroes and monsters, spaceships and adventures. When Zixar tried to control him, she found herself trapped in a world of human fantasy and creativity. She tried to retreat, but Bobby's mind held her. He had realized what was happening and was fighting back with pure human stubbornness. His thoughts became like chains, wrapping around her consciousness and pulling her deeper into his mental world. "Help me," she whispered, but no one could hear her. She was trapped inside a human mind that refused to be controlled. They found her 3 days later, sitting in the repair bay with empty eyes. Her mind was gone, lost in the labyrinth of human imagination. The doctors could not help her. She had become a living warning of what happened when aliens tried to control human thoughts. Colonel Helen Drake arrived on New Terra 1 week later. She was a tall woman with gray hair and cold eyes who had served in Earth's military for 20 years. Her job was to protect the colonies from threats, and she was very good at her job. Helen studied the 2 failed assassinations. She looked at the evidence, questioned the witnesses, and reached a disturbing conclusion. The aliens were not just trying to kill human leaders. They were testing human defenses, learning how to fight a different kind of war. "They'll send more," she told Mayor Phillips. "And the next ones will be better prepared. What do you suggest?" Helen smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "We stop playing defense. It's time to hunt the hunters." She assembled a team of the colony's best fighters and investigators. They studied everything they had learned about the syndicate, mapping their operations and finding their weaknesses. The humans were about to turn the tables on the galaxy's most feared assassins. The 3rd assassin never made it to the colony. Helen's team intercepted him at a space station 3 systems away. The alien killer found himself surrounded by humans who knew exactly how to fight his species. He died quickly, but not before Helen extracted information about other syndicate operations. Word spread through the criminal underworld. The Umbral Syndicate was being hunted by humans who seemed to know their every move. Assassins who had never known fear began to refuse missions involving human targets. The predators were becoming the prey. The Void sat in his dark chamber, studying reports of failure after failure. His most skilled operatives were dead, captured, or driven insane. The humans had done something no other species had ever managed. They had made the Syndicate afraid. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Void felt something he had never experienced before. He felt fear. And somewhere in human space, Colonel Helen Drake was preparing to teach him why that fear was justified. The Shadow War had begun, but the shadows were losing. General Rick Stone stood in the war room aboard the human flagship Victory, studying maps of alien space. 6 months had passed since the Syndicate's failed attacks on the colonies. Now it was time for humans to show the galaxy what they had learned about hunting. Rick was a big man with scarred hands and a voice that could make soldiers jump. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth and knew that the best defense was a good attack. The aliens wanted to play games with assassins and shadows. Rick would teach them that humans were better at this game. "Lieutenant Foster, report," he said to the young woman at the communications station. Amy Foster was 25 years old and had the sharpest mind in human intelligence. She could break alien codes faster than their computers could make them. Her team had been working day and night to track down every syndicate operation in the sector. "Sir, we've located 12 major facilities," Amy said. "Safe houses, training camps, and supply depots. Most are hidden in asteroid fields or abandoned space stations." "Good. What about their communication network?" Amy smiled. "We cracked their codes 3 weeks ago. We can read every message they send." "They still don't know we're listening." Rick nodded. The aliens had made a mistake when they captured Agent Crix. Under questioning, the changeling had revealed more than he realized. Humans were very good at getting information from prisoners, especially when those prisoners thought they were cleverer than their captors. "Captain Morgan, are your teams ready?" Steve Morgan commanded the human special forces. He was a quiet man who moved like a cat and could kill with his bare hands. His soldiers were volunteers from the colonies, people who had lost friends and family to alien attacks. They were motivated in ways that regular soldiers could never be. "Ready, sir?" 12 teams, 12 targets. We hit them all at the same time. Remember, we want prisoners. Dead aliens can't tell us about their remaining operations. Steve grinned. We'll be gentle, sir. The attacks began at exactly midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Human strike teams appeared at Syndicate facilities across 3 star systems. They moved with perfect coordination, using tactics that the aliens had never seen before. The first target was a training camp hidden in an asteroid field. The aliens thought they were safe, surrounded by floating rocks and empty space. They had sensors watching every approach route. But humans didn't come from the expected directions. Steve's team used small pods that looked like space debris. They drifted slowly through the asteroid field for hours, looking like natural rocks. When they were close enough, the pods opened, and the humans emerged in spacesuits. Moving from asteroid to asteroid like mountain climbers, the alien guards never saw them coming. One moment, the facility was secure. The next moment, human soldiers were inside, moving through the corridors like ghosts. The aliens had trained to fight in open space or on planets. They didn't know how to fight in their own hallways. This is Team Alpha, Steve reported. Target secured. 23 prisoners, no human casualties. Similar reports came from the other teams. The Syndicate's carefully hidden bases were falling one after another. Aliens who had spent centuries perfecting the art of stealth found themselves outmatched by humans, who treated war like a science. Amy Foster's intelligence work had been perfect. She had mapped every facility, identified every guard, and even learned the aliens' shift schedules. When the human teams arrived, they knew exactly where to go and who to avoid. The Void received the first reports from his hidden command center. 12 facilities destroyed in one night. Hundreds of his best operatives captured or killed. The network he had built over centuries was crumbling. How is this possible? He demanded from his lieutenant, a 6-armed creature called Ixthran. The humans seem to know our every move, Ixthran replied. They strike at exactly the right time, in exactly the right place. It's like they can read our minds. The Void's shadowy form rippled with anger. Impossible. No species has ever penetrated our security. Perhaps we should withdraw from human space. Find easier targets. No, the Empire pays us to eliminate the humans. We will not fail again. But the Void was already failing. 3 more facilities fell the next week. His remaining operatives were scared and confused. They had never been the ones being hunted before. The experience was breaking their confidence. Captain Steve Morgan led a raid on a Syndicate supply depot hidden inside a dead moon. His team found something that changed everything. The depot wasn't just storing weapons and equipment. It was a research facility where the aliens studied captured beings from dozens of species. Jesus Christ, whispered Corporal Tim Johnson, staring at rows of cages. They've been experimenting on prisoners. Steve's jaw tightened. Inside the cages were creatures from across the galaxy. Some were dead, others were barely alive. The aliens had been testing poisons, weapons, and torture techniques on living beings for decades. Sir, you need to see this, called Sergeant Lisa. Park from another room. Steve followed her to a laboratory filled with files and computer records. The documents were in multiple languages, but the pictures told the story clearly. The Syndicate had been the Empire's tool for genocide quietly, eliminating entire species when conquest was too difficult. How many? Steve asked. Lisa's face was pale. 17 species completely wiped out, maybe more. They kept detailed records of everything. Steve activated his communicator. General Stone, this is Morgan. We've found something big. The Syndicate isn't just assassins, they're running death camps. The discovery changed everything. Rick Stone transmitted the evidence to every human colony and back to Earth. The proof of alien war crimes spread through human space like wildfire. People who had wanted peace now demanded justice. Dr. Claire Adams worked in the captured facilities. Laboratory, studying alien technology. She was a brilliant scientist who had volunteered for the colonies to escape Earth's crowded universities. Now she found herself examining weapons designed to kill her own species. General, these weapons are fascinating, she reported. They're designed to exploit biological weaknesses that humans don't have. What do you mean? Claire held up a strange device that looked like a silver spider. This is a neural disruptor. It's supposed to shut down brain activity by targeting specific alien nerve clusters. But human brains are wired differently. It doesn't affect us at all. Can you reverse engineer it? Better than that. I can modify it to work on the aliens who made it. Their own weapons can be turned against them. Within weeks, human forces were using modified syndicate weapons in their raids. The aliens found themselves paralyzed by their own technology, unable to fight back against enemies who had learned to use their tools better than they could. The Void watched his empire crumble. His operatives were being captured faster than he could replace them. The humans had somehow learned to fight shadows with light, to hunt the hunters with their own methods. Reports came in from across the galaxy. Human teams were striking at syndicate operations on dozens of worlds. They moved like the wind, appearing without warning and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. Every raid netted more prisoners, more information, more evidence of the syndicate's crimes. The humans are like a plague, Ixflan reported. They learn everything about us, then use that knowledge against us. Our own methods have become our weakness. The Void's form grew darker with rage. Then we will abandon subtlety. No more stealth, no more careful planning. We will kill them. All with overwhelming force. Sir, we have already lost 60% of our operatives. If we attack directly, we might lose everything. Then we lose everything. But we take the humans with us. The Void was making the same mistake as the Zephyrian Empire. He was fighting humans the way he had fought other species. He expected them to break under pressure, to panic when faced with superior numbers. Instead, he was about to learn that desperate humans were the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. The Shadow War was ending, but the real war was just beginning, and the humans were ready. Emperor Zephyr sat on his crystal throne, watching reports of rebellion flood in from across the galaxy. For 3,000 years, his empire had ruled through fear and overwhelming force. Now, a single species had shattered that control, and the consequences were spreading like wildfire. The emperor was ancient, even by his species' standards. His purple skin had darkened with age, and his forearms moved slowly as he studied the holographic displays. Each one showed another world where his subjects were rising up, inspired by the humans' victories against the Syndicate. How many worlds have declared independence? He asked his advisors. Prime Minister Yaxandra stepped forward. She was younger than the Emperor, but still old enough to remember when the Empire was unstoppable. 17 systems have openly rebelled, Your Majesty. 23 more have stopped sending tribute. The humans have established embassies on 41 worlds. Embassies? The Emperor's voice was like grinding stone. They dare to treat with our subjects as equals? More than that, Your Majesty. They are teaching our former slaves how to fight. Human military advisors are training rebel forces across the sector. The Emperor stood from his throne, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. Summon Admiral Vexthara. It is time to end this human plague once and for all. On the planet Kelver 7, Commander Paul Wright was meeting with representatives from the local resistance movement. The Kelvarians were a peaceful species that had been under Zephyrian rule for 800 years. They had never fought back. Until the humans showed them it was possible, Paul was a diplomat and soldier, a man who could talk peace while preparing for war. He had been establishing human embassies throughout the sector, not to conquer but to inspire. Every world that joined the growing alliance made the Empire weaker. We can provide weapons and training, Paul told the Calvarian leaders. But the decision to fight must be yours. Freedom cannot be given. It must be taken. Elder Crixtal, the oldest Calvarian, spoke with a voice that shook with emotion. For 8 centuries we have lived as slaves. We forgot what it meant to be free. The humans have reminded us. The Empire will not give up easily, Paul warned. They will send their fleets to crush any rebellion. Are your people ready for that? We have been dying slowly for 800 years, another Calvarian said. Better to die quickly while fighting for our children's freedom. Paul nodded. These words were being spoken on dozens of worlds. The Empire had created their own destruction by ruling through fear. When that fear was broken, anger took its place. He activated his communicator. General Lewis, this is right. Kelver 7 is ready to join the Alliance. They need defensive weapons and training instructors. General Sandra Lewis commanded the human forces from a mobile command center that moved constantly through space. She was a small woman with fierce eyes and a mind that could plan battles across multiple star systems. Her job was to coordinate the growing rebellion while preparing for the Empire's response. Understood, Paul. We'll have a training team there within the week. But be careful. Our scouts report massive fleet movements in the core systems. The Empire is preparing something big. Sandra was right. In the secret shipyards of the Empire's capital world, 3 massive fleets were being assembled. Each fleet contained more ships than had ever been gathered in one place. The Empire was committing everything to what they called the final solution. Admiral Vexthara stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds. The ship was 5 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to turn planets into dust. Around her, 2,000 other vessels prepared for the largest military operation in galactic history. Admiral, all fleets report ready, her communications officer announced. Vexthara nodded. She had been dreaming of this moment ever since. Her humiliating defeat at Kepler 442, the humans had embarrassed her, destroyed her reputation, and caused the Empire to lose face across the galaxy. Now she would have her revenge. Target coordinates are set for the human homeworld and all major colonies, she told her fleet commanders. This time there will be no survivors. We will burn their worlds to ash and scatter their bones across space. The 3 fleets began their jump to hyperspace. The Empire's final gambit was underway. They would strike at the heart of human space with overwhelming force, destroying the rebellion's leaders and breaking the spirit of their allies. But General Lewis had been preparing for this moment. Human intelligence networks had been watching the Empire's military preparations for weeks. They knew the fleets were coming, they knew their target, and they had prepared a surprise of their own. All units, this is General Lewis, she broadcast to human forces throughout the sector. Operation Freedom Storm is now active. Execute Phase 1. Across human space, hidden weapon platforms came online. Automated defense systems that had been disguised as asteroids and space debris suddenly revealed themselves. The humans had been building their defenses for months, using captured alien technology and their own innovations. Captain Roy Davis commanded the human flagship Liberty, a ship that had been built specifically for this battle. Unlike the massive alien vessels, the Liberty was designed for speed and maneuverability. It carried the most advanced weapons the humans had ever built. Sir, long-range sensors are picking up the enemy fleets, reported Lieutenant Jenny Park. 3 groups, coming from different directions. Total count is over 2,000 vessels. Roy studied the tactical display. The Empire's strategy was simple but effective. They would surround human space and attack from all directions at once. Any other species would be overwhelmed by such massive force. Signal all allied fleets, Roy ordered. It's time to show the Empire what united free peoples can do. The space around the Liberty suddenly filled with ships. Vessels from dozens of species that had broken free from the Empire emerged from hyperspace. Calvarian cruisers, Vraxian fighters, and ships from 20 other worlds joined the human fleet. Each alien vessel had been modified with human technology and tactics. Their crews had been trained by human military advisors. The Empire faced not just humanity, but an alliance of every species they had oppressed. Dr. Claire Adams worked frantically in the Liberty's laboratory, putting final touches on humanity's secret weapon. She had been studying captured Empire technology for months, learning how their ships communicated and coordinated their attacks. General Lewis, the virus is ready, she reported. Once we get close enough to their flagship, we can upload it to their entire fleet. What will it do? it will turn their own coordination systems against them. Their ships will receive false orders, target the wrong enemies, and generally create chaos in their formations. Sandra smiled grimly. The Empire rules through perfect order and control. Let's show them what happens when that breaks down. The first engagement began at the edge of human space. The Empire's advanced scouts met the Allied fleet and immediately realized something was wrong. The force facing them was far larger than expected, and it was fighting with a coordination that seemed impossible. Admiral Vextara received the first reports with growing alarm. How many ships are we facing? At least 1,500, Admiral. Maybe more. They keep appearing from different directions. That's impossible. The humans don't have that many ships. Admiral, these aren't just human vessels. We're seeing ships from dozens of species. They're all working together. For the first time, Vextara felt doubt. The Empire had conquered the galaxy by fighting each species separately, using their superior numbers and technology. They had never faced a united alliance of their former subjects. All fleets converge on the human homeworld, she ordered. We will crush them with overwhelming force. But as the three Imperial fleets moved toward their target, they found themselves facing something they had never encountered before. The humans had not just built an alliance. They had created a new way of fighting that turned the Empire's greatest strength into its greatest weakness. The final battle was about to begin. The Battle of Proxima Centauri began at dawn, Galactic Standard Time. Captain Roy Davis stood on the bridge of the Liberty, watching three massive enemy fleets approach from different directions. The Empire had brought over 2,000 ships to end the human rebellion once and for all. All stations report ready, Lieutenant Jenny Park announced. Allied fleets are in position, Roy nodded. Around the Liberty, ships from 43 different species waited in formation. Each crew had been trained by human military advisors, and each ship carried weapons designed with human technology. The Empire faced not just humanity, but every species they had ever oppressed. Open a channel to all ships, Roy ordered. This is Captain Davis to all Allied forces. Today we fight. Not just for our survival, but for the freedom of every being in the galaxy. Show them what free people can do. Admiral Vextara watched the battle display from her flagship. The human force was smaller than her fleet, but something felt wrong. The enemy ships were positioned in patterns she had never seen before, and their coordination was perfect. Begin the attack, she commanded. All ships maximum firepower. The Empire's fleet opened fire with weapons that could destroy planets. Blue energy beams filled space like a deadly storm, but the human ships didn't meet the attack head-on. Instead, they scattered in all directions, moving in ways that seemed impossible. What are they doing? Vextara demanded. Her weapons officer studied the display. Admiral, they're not fighting like a fleet? They're fighting like a swarm of insects. Every ship is acting independently, but they're all working together. Roy had studied every battle the Empire had ever fought. Their tactics were always the same: overwhelming firepower in straight lines, crushing enemies with superior numbers. But humans had learned to fight differently during their wars on Earth. All ships, execute Pattern Charlie, Roy broadcast. Hit and run, stay mobile. The human and Allied ships moved through the Empire's formation like sharks through a school of fish. They struck quickly at individual targets, then disappeared before the enemy could respond. The Empire's massive ships were too slow to catch them, too rigid to adapt. Dr. Claire Adams worked at her station, watching the battle data. Roy, their command ship is in the center of the formation. If I can get close enough, I can upload the virus to their communication network. How close? Within 1,000 kilometers. The virus will spread through their entire fleet in minutes. Roy made the decision that would end the war. All ships, cover the Liberty, we're going in. The Liberty shot forward, racing toward the heart of the Empire's fleet. Enemy ships fired everything they had, but the human vessel danced between the energy beams like a leaf in the wind. Allied ships followed, creating a corridor of safety through the chaos. General Sandra Lewis coordinated the battle from her command center. She watched the tactical display as her carefully planned operation unfolded. The Empire's fleet was massive, but it was also predictable. They fought the same way they had for 3,000 years, and humans had learned to counter every move. Phase 2 is active, she announced. All hidden platforms, reveal yourselves. Across the battlefield, what looked like asteroids and space debris suddenly came alive. Hundreds of hidden weapon platforms that had been disguised as natural objects began firing at the Empire's ships. The aliens found themselves surrounded by enemies they never knew existed. Impossible, Admiral Vexthara whispered. Where did these weapons come from? Her tactical officer's voice shook with fear. Admiral, we're detecting human technology signatures throughout the battlefield. They've been preparing for this battle for months. The Empire's perfect formation began to fall apart. Ships that had been built to fight in organized lines found themselves attacked from every direction. Their commanders had no experience with this kind of warfare. Commander Nick Thompson led a squadron of human fighters through the chaos. He had been a pilot in Earth's wars before joining the colony mission. Now he found himself fighting for the freedom of the entire galaxy. Blue Squadron, target their command vessels, he ordered. Take out their leadership and the fleet will fall apart. The small human fighters moved through the battle like deadly birds. They were too fast for the Empire's heavy weapons, too small to be easily targeted. One by one, they destroyed the alien command ships that held the fleet together, the Liberty. Finally reached the center of the Empire's formation. Dr. Claire Adams worked frantically to upload her virus, while enemy ships fired at them from all directions. The Liberty's shields began to fail under the massive attack. Uploading now, Claire announced. 10 seconds to completion. We don't have 10 seconds, Roy said, watching the shield display drop toward 0. Suddenly, ships from the Allied fleet surrounded the Liberty, taking the enemy fire on themselves. Calvarian cruisers and Vraxian fighters sacrificed themselves to protect the human flagship. Their crews died so that freedom could live. Upload complete, Claire said. The virus is spreading through their network. The effect was immediate. Empire ships began receiving false orders, targeting their own allies and losing coordination. The perfect military machine that had conquered the galaxy turned into chaos. Admiral Vexthara watched her fleet destroy itself. Ships that should have been fighting humans were firing at each other. Her communication systems were giving contradictory orders. The battle was lost. All ships retreat, she ordered. Fall back to the core systems. But her fleet was too damaged to retreat effectively. Human and allied forces pursued them, capturing ship after ship. The Empire's military power was broken in a single battle. Emperor Zepthys received the news. In his palace, his greatest fleet had been destroyed, his military commanders were dead or captured, and rebellions were spreading across every system. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Empire faced complete defeat. What are our options? He asked his advisors. Prime Minister Yaxandra spoke with a voice heavy with defeat. We have lost 60% of our fleet. The remaining ships are scattered and demoralized. The humans have proven they can defeat us in open battle. Then we fight to the last ship. Your Majesty, with respect, that would mean the end of our entire species. The humans have shown mercy to enemies who surrender. Perhaps it is time to consider peace. The Emperor felt the weight of 3 millennia of rule pressing down on him. His empire had been built on fear and conquest. Now he faced an enemy that could not be frightened or conquered. Send a message to the human leadership, he said quietly. Request a meeting to discuss terms. President Mary Johnson had been a colony administrator before the war began. She never expected to become the leader of a galactic alliance, but the other species had chosen her to speak for them all. She was a small woman with kind eyes and a voice that could calm crowds or inspire armies. She sat across from Emperor Zepthys in a neutral space station between human and Empire territory. The most powerful being in the galaxy had come to her, asking for peace. What do you want from us? The Emperor asked. Mary looked at the alien ruler who had enslaved dozens of species. We want you to free every slave in your empire. We want you to pay back the wealth you stole from conquered worlds. We want you to put your war criminals on trial for their crimes. And if we refuse, then the war continues until your empire no longer exists. The Emperor understood. The humans were not interested in ruling the galaxy, they wanted to free it. What guarantee do we have that you will not destroy us once we surrender? You have the word of free peoples everywhere. We don't want to rule over you. We want to live beside you as equals. The negotiations took 3 days. When they ended, the Zephyrian Empire agreed to release all enslaved species, return stolen wealth, and submit to a new galactic government based on cooperation instead of conquest. The signing ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Emperor Zepthys, the being who had ruled through fear for 3,000 years, put his signature on a document that ended his empire forever. The age of conquest is over, Mary Johnson announced to the galaxy. The age of freedom has begun. In the months that followed, the galaxy changed completely. Species that had been slaves for centuries learned to govern themselves. Trade replaced tribute, cooperation replaced conquest. The humans helped where they could, but they never tried to rule. The Zephyrian Empire became the Zephyrian Republic, a peaceful member of the new Galactic Alliance. Former enemies became friends, working together to build a better future for everyone, and throughout the galaxy, beings told stories of the species that had refused to surrender, that had turned fear into hope, and that had taught the universe that freedom was worth fighting for. The humans had not conquered the galaxy. They had liberated it. And that made all the difference.